The Mandalorian season 2 finale, The Rescue. So I just finished. I just finished. I did a reaction for it, so you guys can check that out. It'll be up probably over the weekend sometime. New with the baby up. Editing gets weird sometimes. But that'll be up soon. But I gotta get real close. I gotta get real close here because I gotta just bit. Luke fucking Skywalker showed up. Luke Skywalker. Ignore the fat right here. But Luke fucking Skywalker showed up. This is a crazy episode. All right, Luke Skywalker showed up. This guy was just rolling through, and like it wasn't even a fast-paced action scene. He comes in and it's just like, boom, get out of my face. Dead. Everybody is down. Luke Skywalker came in, and that's the craziest thing in the universe. Luke Skywalker, with his horrible, ugly CG face. I don't know why. Disney owns everything. I don't know why they weren't just like, hold on, guys. Marvel, just come over here for a split second. It's not even for a whole movie. It's not Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It just come over here for like 30 seconds and just Luke Skywalker. Just Marvel meet Star Wars. Good Luke face. That's all they had to do, but they didn't. It still looked weird. It's just okay. I don't know what it is. The Marvel movies have done it, and they look ridiculously amazing. And I don't know why they don't do that for Star Wars. It's super weird to me because I'm like, guys, it's just you own both. Just have them just pluck that technology. You own the technology. I know it's still Marvel's thing and then Star Wars thing, but Disney is that umbrella. So just be like, guys, help them, please. It's Luke Skywalker. It's Luke Skywalker, okay? But aside from that, though, story-wise, it was Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker showed up. The whole episode is just crazy, by the way. Also, I have to mention this before I actually spoil it in case anybody missed it. There is a post-credit scene. If you have not seen it, stop watching this. Go watch that. Like, just watch the post-credit scene because I'm going to randomly like throw it in there. And then I don't want to spoil that because it leads into like the whole future of this series and what they're doing with the Disney Plus Star Wars shows. So definitely watch that if you haven't seen it, but there is a post-credit sequence and it's amazing. It's ridiculous. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But the whole episode was just good. It starts off right off. They're already chasing the ship down. It's like, okay, they have the scientist. I don't know what they did with him. I guess he's just on Boba's ship because like once Boba's gone, like he's just gone. So they get to the ship. It was an amazing moment. Also, super funny. The guy that was holding up the doctor was actually in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which Ming-Na Wen was in. So I thought that was kind of funny that they were like in that same episode. They weren't in the same scene, which would have been even funnier, but they were in the they're both in Star Wars now, so that's cool. But they end up getting the doctor. Cara Dune ends up shooting the dude because I knew that was gonna happen too. He's talking about like like we blew up Alderaan. I was on the ship, and he's talking about all the people that died on the Death Stars and stuff, which I thought was funny. She was like, which one were you on? And he's like, oh, that's funny because of course they both blew up. But I thought that was really good. That was a cool scene. And then they brought Bo-Katan back. I didn't think that was gonna happen. They killed her friend off, which I was like, I knew somebody had to go, and I was like, they're not gonna kill. At first I didn't assume that they were gonna bring Bo-Katan in. So I think it was a couple episodes back. I was like, if they're doing this rescue, I'm like, they're not gonna kill Boba. They're not killing the main character of the show. I don't think they're gonna kill off Cara Dune. And I was like, Ming-Na Wen, I love her, but I think Fennec's about to go. And then Bo-Katan came in with her buddy. She didn't have the guy wasn't there, but for whatever reason, it was just it was just the ladies. And so sadly, she gets killed off. She gets like shot in the back and stuff, and then she drops. And I was like, dang, they didn't even spend time on that too. She got shot up, and then it was like oh no, like but he's about to kill a baby. He's about to kill Grogu, and it was like, okay, well f her and do a dive. And then it was like, whatever, sorry. Like, sorry, you're gone. And then Luke showed up and was like, your death was just like a speck of dust in this like an amazing sequence of events. And it's like, I'm sorry you died right before they were about to like rip our hearts out. Like, I knew he wasn't gonna get shot. But it was like, sorry you got killed, but he was about to go for for Grogu. And then it was like, well, now my all my focus is on that. And then the X-Wing came in. I was like, that can't be Luke Skywalker because he that's crazy. So she died, and I don't even remember her name. I didn't remember it from the first time she showed up, but unfortunately, she is dead. But it's just crazy stuff. Amazing fight scene with her and Boba, though. She had an amazing moment, at least in the episode before she ended up dying. But I love that moment where they go find Bo-Katan, and I'm like, okay, first off, they show up, and it's just like an amazing shot. Like, you got two Mandalorians just walking in. You have Din, and then you have Boba. And I'm like, the people in this bar, this has to be like the worst moment of their lives. Like, two Mandalorians just walked in, and then they showed Bo-Katan and her friend, and I was like, this is the worst moment of their lives. It's like, there are four Mandalorians. I don't want to be here right now. So, which is why people were leaving. But an amazing moment, even before the fight, they had the best, like, especially if you're a super nerd like me and you love Clone Wars and stuff, they had the best dialogue where it was like, you're not even a Mandalorian. He was like, I never said I was. And it's like, you're just a clone. Like, I've heard your voice 1,000 times. And he's like, today might be the last time you hear it. And I was like, that's a good line. That's a really good comeback. And like, he hates them, they hate him because they don't count him as a true Mandalorian. And I was like, oh, that's really cool, like him being a foundling, but he's technically a clone. He's not really the son. And I think that was the main thing. It wasn't just the fact that he was a foundling. I think it was the fact that, technically speaking, he's a clone. And I think that was more than what it was than anything else. It's like, you're not even really, like, you're only kind of human. Like, you're in like this weird middle space. Like, I don't really see you as a Mandalorian because you're not even the son of the person that was an actual Mandalorian. Like, you're a clone of that dude. So I thought that was great. He's like, I got this armor from my father. He's like, you mean your donor? And I was like, that's so good. And then them talking about the Darksaber, and he's like, Mandalore, like, the Empire turned that place to glass. Like, it's like, it's nothing. Like, it's not even a thing to be concerned with anymore. So that whole moment, like them hating each other, I thought that was great. Like, throughout the whole episode, I was like, I love that. That was amazing. Fight sequence was good. Boba got tossed around a bit, but he got his hits in for sure. And then they end on like a flamethrower clash, which I was like, that's super cool. So that was an amazing moment. Then of course they go in for the rescue. The ladies are just running in, and Din is like doing his thing. Boba, he has to kind of be the distraction, and it's like, oh, we're under attack, so we have to like run in. So he's able to shoot off. Of course, he's super cool. He even gets like a tiny little moment to be epic in his ship, because as he's leaving, we see like on the bottom of the Slave One, he has turrets that shoot backwards, and he just blows up like 2 TIE fighters. And it's just like, it was nothing there. It's Boba Fett. And I was just like, I don't think we've ever seen that before. But it's like, of course it makes sense. It was like, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. And then it was just like, boom, boom, got you guys. And I'm out of here. And it was like, there goes Boba Fett. So they go in. They're just blasting people left and right. The stormtroopers are the worst. They suck so hard. It's amazing. There's one segment, and I wish I could remember exactly where. It was like a little cargo hold area. So it was like they were going through like the hallways, and then they enter like this little cargo area where they kind of have to sneak around. And I think that was when like Fennec really got her time to shine. Like she did like a spin kick and was like blasting people. She killed like a dude like through a diamond. He like peeked through, and she was like, gotcha, and killed the guy. And I was like, literally that whole segment, one stormtrooper even got to shoot a blaster. That whole time, they just kept getting shot in the face. Even at the end, I was like, okay, there's like 3 stormtroopers running up on them, behind them. Maybe one of these guys will get a shot off. Nope. Every stormtrooper but one died before they got a single blaster shot off, which is hilarious. So, stormtroopers, it's crazy. Then the dark troopers, they were amazing. Obviously they got put down, the second wave, but that first part where like then actually had to fight one of them, that was really cool. I love how it hit the door. I was like, this is some Terminator stuff, and it's just marching through. They look great in this episode compared to the first time they showed up, where they were just in direct sunlight and super CG, and also moving really clunky and weird. I was like, okay, it fits in this where it's like they're jet black and it's just like the gray and the white of the light reflecting off of them. It looked fantastic in this one. And so the one gets through. He has to fight it, of course. He's shooting at it. It shoots at him like both. Like it's like I got Beskar armor. You got whatever. Like it's not BS stormtrooper armor clearly. So he's trying to shoot in the beginning. Nothing's happening. So they're going back and forth. He tries to use the flamethrower on it. That doesn't really work. And so he's going back and forth. And eventually he has to use his whistling birds. And even that doesn't technically kill it. It just kind of distracts it a little bit and kind of makes it a little wonky. And then he hits it with the spear in the neck and like pops its head off. And I was like, okay. That was super cool. Then, of course, he gets the ultimate, space-faring Deus Ex. It's like, oh, you guys are in the room? I'm just going to pop the airlock on that room and get rid of all my enemies, because that's what they do in every space series. Fortunately, that wasn't the ultimate Deus Ex. He did it. It gave them some time. He got to get, to Grogu. The ladies got to get to the bridge. They just wiped everybody out, of course, and it's like, where the F is Moff Gideon? Of course, he's in the brig. So, Din goes there, or Din Djarin. Din goes there. Takes out the stormtroopers. I literally thought he had the spear, and I thought he just threw it. I thought he was like about to throw the spear through a guy's head, but he beats them up. He snaps the neck of one of the people. I was like, wow, I don't know if we've really seen that too. Like maybe in Clone Wars. I don't think we've seen it in live action where somebody just snaps someone's neck. I'm sure it's been there somewhere, and I just can't remember. But he actually snapped his neck with the spear. So it's like, okay. Pops the door open. Moff Gideon is there. He's got the Darksaber, the most beautiful thing ever. And so he's like, all right. This is what's happening. It's like, if they were at the bridge, I'm sure they killed everybody because they're monsters and whatever, and they're going to be a little upset. And at first I'm like, okay, so yeah, they're going to be mad, but what are they, the way he was doing it was like they were gonna turn on each other. I'm like, why would they turn on each other? They'll just have to find him. No big deal. So then they go through and they end up having their battle. And of course, Moff Gideon loses, so the Darksaber now goes to the Mandalorian. And I didn't think of it until he said it. I was like, oh, I should have remembered that, but I didn't. And so it was like, what happened? And then Cardin's like, oh, he brought him in alive. And Moff Gideon's like, that's not what she's talking about. And he just did like his classic, villain thing. And it was genius. It was really genius. It was just like, well, now, like the Darksaber is yours. So she has to fight you. And it's like, well, I yield. Here you go. And it's like, don't work like that. Like, they're too stubborn. The Mandalorians are too stubborn to do it that way. Because, like he said, it's more the story than it is the weapon. It's like, technically, if someone's just powerful enough, it's like, well, I'm just going to take over. If I really want to, I'll just kill everybody that's opposition. And then, bam, I'm in control. You can easily do that. But the honor and the code of the Mandalorians is kind of like, you fall in line with the most ancient weapon that we have, which is the first, in a sense, lightsaber that was ever created by a Mandalorian, like the first Mandalorian Jedi. So it has like this insane lore behind it. So that's why everyone follows it. Like, technically, she could take over because it's her rightful place. She's literally the princess. But it's kind of like, sorry, first rule of Mandalorians, you got to have the Darksaber. If you want to lead, you got to have the Darksaber. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, because that was one of the things they kind of just left up in the air, which I thought was, it upset me a little bit, but it was also kind of genius because it's so huge that would have to almost be an episode in itself. Like, that's something that can't really be resolved in like a couple minutes, where it's like, okay, so you kind of have it, but I kind of have to kill you for it, but I don't want to kill you because we're cool like that. But I do have to kill you because I need to, I got to run my planet. So I don't know what they're going to do with that, but that was a great segment. And then, of course, it's like, okay, well, they go through this madness, and then it's like, oh, crap, we're about to get surrounded because, of course, the Dark Troopers come back. So I'm like, all right, this is cool. Then they're coming in. It's like, well, how are they going to survive it? Like, the Mando barely defeated the first one. Which also, Moff Gideon mentioned that. He was like, assume I know everything. That's probably, like, honestly, the best line in the whole episode, where he was like, just assume I know everything. And then he rattled off, was like how I know you used your last little, like, the whistling birds. And I was like, how would he know that? Like, how long, like, I don't know how long it takes to get from the bridge to the brig, but I'm like, how would he know that? And I guess he just would have to assume, like, he knew when the Dark Troopers kind of launched, and he was like, I know he's going to have to use it. But I don't know, camera somewhere, I guess, I don't know. But it was just crazy. Like, they're going through that, and I'm like, the tension is rising, and then they don't have time for tension because the droids come in. And so then they're all surrounded. And then it's like, well, how's this going to play out? Like, Moff Gideon's doing his thing. It's like, in a minute, everybody's dead except for me and the kid. I'm just saying. Like, I got what I want. But also, I'm a douchebag, because he totally had it. He had his moment. It was like, Jim was going to leave. And then he tried to attack him, and he lost. But it was like, hey, I'm a douchebag, but I'm going to be a living douchebag. And then they're freaking out. Droids are, they're punching through the door. And then just an X-Wing comes in. It's like, Ew. And at first, I was like, okay, if there's one X-Wing, there's going to be a bunch. That's what was in my head. I was like, there's one X-Wing, and then there's going to be some more ships. I thought, for whatever reason, the New Republic was going to be like, hey, figured this out. Something happened. Little stress call, whatever. X-Wing comes in as a little scout mission. Things are kind of weird here. Hey, guys, come on in. And I thought a bunch more X-Wings were coming in. That's what my assumption was at first. I'm like, oh, it's one X-Wing. It's a little scout deal. They're going to send some more people in. That's how they're going to get help. They're going to have a bunch of people kind of help them from the other end. And they're going to, like, kind of, pinch all the droids in place. And then they'll just blast them all in. They'll take them all down. That was my assumption. And then, time kept passing. And then Kara was like, oh, one X-Wing. Great. And I'm just like, there's going to be more X-Wings, all right? And then nothing was happening. And there were no more X-Wings. And I'm like, but that can't be Luke Skywalker, because that's crazy, And so no more X-Wings were showing up. And I'm like, but that can't be Luke Skywalker, is what I was saying in my head, because that's not possible. And then it was Luke Skywalker, and he was just going through everybody. And it was so cool. I was just like, I couldn't believe it. I still can't really believe it, because it's Luke Skywalker, despite his ugly face. It's Luke Skywalker. And he was coming through, and it was just like, wow. And it was so slow paced. Like, the music was simple, and it wasn't crazy. And it was just Master Jedi Luke Skywalker just strolling on through and just waving them down like no big deal. Just block here. I'm going to slice you in half. Just boop, you're dead. And then the final one, he just did like the Force Crush, which was great. That gave me like Force Unleashed feels because he just crushed it in his hand. So I was like, ooh, that was cool. But the whole way through, I'm just like, it's Luke Skywalker. I'm like, the whole way through, I was honestly in denial because I'm like, I know it's Luke Skywalker because like the dude's dressed in all black. He's got like the glove. He's got a green lightsaber, and like I saw that it was his lightsaber. Like they showed it when he was walking towards the camera. You could like see that it was his lightsaber, and I'm like, but it still could be somebody else because it can't be Luke Skywalker because that's insane. And then it was Luke Skywalker, and they played the theme and stuff when he like revealed his face, and I was like, this is so good, and it was so crazy. It's crazier than it is anything else. Like it's good for sure, but it's so crazy to me. And I feel like some people might be upset because I know a lot of people didn't like, some of the big movie stuff coming in. I personally didn't mind it. But just the fact that it happened, period, was just the craziest thing to me. Where it was just like, and then it was like, are you a Jedi? I'm like, is this dude a Jedi? Grandmaster Luke Skywalker? Yeah, I think he's a Jedi. So, but it's so crazy. It was so nuts, but I loved it. I was just like, I can't believe it. Like, it's Luke Skywalker. He just rolled in, taking them all down, and it was just like, I can take the kid. He'll never be safe until he masters his powers. And it's like, okay. And then takes his helmet off, which was really good. Like an emotional scene. And like Grogu like kind of touches his face. I was like, oh man, that's super cute. And then he's just like, all right, it's time to go, kid. And he hands him off to Luke. And R2 showed up as well. That was cute. That was cool. R2 showed up and he's talking with Grogu. And then he does like his little happy dance. And so then they hop on the elevator. And everybody's looking. It's like, oh, he gets to go with the Jedi. He's going to learn his powers. And then the elevator closes. It's just like, boom, season 2 finale over. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, that's where you leave it. We don't know what's going to happen with the Darksaber. We don't know what's going to happen with Moff Gideon. We don't know where Grogu's headed. We don't know what they're going to do with the training. Is Luke going to come back? How is that going to play out? Everyone's been talking about, now that they've done it, they basically have to give us this moment. Because a lot of people were like, what if, now that we got Ahsoka in live action, what if they brought in young Luke Skywalker and they got to have that moment where it was like, Ahsoka lost Anakin to him becoming Darth Vader, but Luke got to see him turn good again. And it was like, everyone wants that moment in live action. And now that they've done it, they got Mark Hamill to come back and they got Luke Skywalker. They might do it. They might actually have that happen where they have Luke meet Ahsoka and we get to see them have like that emotional moment where it's like, I lost him, and then Luke is able to kind of help Ahsoka move on a little bit and be like, hey, in the end, despite all the evil that he did as Darth Vader, he did turn back to the light side of the Force. And that would be an amazing emotional moment, especially for Ahsoka's character. Like, Luke already had that because he was obviously there in the movie when it happened. But for Ahsoka, it was just, I lost my mentor. I lost one of my best friends. And I had to fight him as Darth Vader. That's some Rebel stuff. So, if you haven't seen it, sorry I spoiled that. But you should be watching it anyway. And it's just great. So we might actually get that now. And it's just nuts. Luke Skywalker showed up and took out a bunch of droids like it was nobody's business. It was so calm, and he was just like, yep, I am Grandmaster. He's technically probably not Grandmaster at this point, but he's Grandmaster Luke Skywalker. And it's just insane. It was just crazy. And so then the episode ends, and I'm processing and stuff, and then poof, after credit scene. I was like, I knew there had to be one because the way the credits hit, I was like, there's still a lot of extra, the credits are always long, but I was like, this seems longer than normal. I was like, something's about to happen. So then we get an extra credit scene, and it was so crazy. I'm like, okay, as soon as it popped up, I'm like, I think I know that place. It was Jabba's palace. And so then they have Jabba's buddy. I don't remember his name. I remember Salacious Crumb, but I always forget that dude's name. It's like on the tip of my tongue, and I just can't remember. I always forget his name, but he ends up taking over Jabba's palace. He's gotten super fat, and his nails are crazy long and everything. And so he's in there. We see Fennec come down. She's like shooting a couple people. She lets the Twilight go free. And then Boba comes down. Like, you see a shadow come down. And I'm like, oh, man. Is he about to take over, Jabba's palace? And it's like, oh, Boba, I thought you were dead. I heard a bunch of rumors. And he's like, oh, okay. And he just shoots him in the chest. And is like, all right, get the F off of this throne. My throne now. Boba Fett is taking over Jabba's palace, and he's going to be the gangster of Tatooine. And now we're moving into what I assume is going to be the new segment of the series, The Book of Boba Fett. So that's crazy, because December 2021, Season 3 of The Mandalorian will now transition from Din Djarin and his journey with Grogu to Tatooine, Boba Fett and Fennec's journey as the new gangster rulers, I guess, of Tatooine. So I don't know what the F that means. I don't know what we should expect. I don't know what in the world Season 3 is going to be pretty much in any realm. Because I'm like, if it's called The Book of Boba, I assume that means we are transitioning to his story. It's the Mandalorian. It's just going to be a different Mandalorian. Like, the image is just going to change, and it'll be Boba Fett instead of Din. So that's my assumption for how that's going to play out. And then Din will probably be in like other shows as a side character in those. But I just don't know. Because if we're switching to the Book of Boba Fett, he's staying on Tatooine for a minute, and I cannot wait to see how all that stuff plays out. So I don't know what's going to happen. Considering they showed Finnick in that means they dealt with all the Darksaber stuff and all that. So I'm sure they're like, we'll just show what's going to happen with Boba Fett, and then we'll just, they'll figure out the story in between now and next year as far as what they're going to do with the whole Mandalorian Darksaber thing and all that good stuff. But whew, Luke Skywalker showed up, and then Boba Fett went back to Tatooine and was like, you know what? I want that throne. And he just took it. He just took it for himself. So next year's going to be wild. As of now, we got a bit of a break, sadly, until more Star Wars comes out. But if you're on Disney Plus, odds are, if you're watching this, then you're probably watching the Marvel stuff too. So we got WandaVision in January, I believe. So, we got some stuff to kind of pace this out. But, man, Star Wars is crazy. What a crazy season. What a crazy season. Bo-Katan live action, Ahsoka live action, Luke Skywalker on a freaking series. It's wild. It was a wild time for Star Wars, but it was a great season finale. So many questions just left up in there. Like, I think they wrapped up the story, but then they were like, we're gonna cut it at like the perfect point, because I feel like it could have been another episode just for questions. Like, well, what are they gonna do with the Darksaber? Where is Grogu going? Because technically, it's the Mandalorian show, so it's not gonna focus really on Grogu, but it's like, when will we see him again? Because we have to, because that's too important of a character to just be like, well, poof, we just never learn what happened to him ever again. So there's just too many questions. There's too many questions. So somehow they're going to answer all of them. I don't know what series they're going to be answered in. Ahsoka's show, who knows? Maybe even Lando's show when that comes out. They're just going to be like, surprise, we're answering some questions from The Mandalorian Season 2. I don't know anymore. But there's so many questions in the air. I'm just excited for everything. But I would love to know what you guys thought about this Season 2 finale. Where are we headed? I would love to know your theories, your thoughts on the Boba Fett thing. Like, this show, based on that, like I said, it's not the Boba series. It's transitioning. It's the Book of Boba Fett. So I assume that the show, The Mandalorian, is now officially, they're telling us like, hey, surprise, this show is officially an anthology series. It's not just one person's story. It's the Mandalorian story, which means that they could do what I thought they were going to do, I think, in episode 3 when Bo-Katan first showed up. I was like, they could technically have Din help them save Mandalore. And now that it's the Mandalorian, and they're clearly establishing the fact that it's not, the Mandalorian is not Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, it's his series, that it's the Mandalorian series, period. It's like about all Mandalorians. 2 more seasons of Boba Fett, season 5 could easily be like the Book of Mandalore, or the Book of Bo-Katan. It could be like her series, going into like the next chapter, or it could just be for the planet of Mandalore, and then we figure out what happens down the line when they do that official war, which would be the best thing ever if they did another Mandalorian war, because that's always the best stuff. Like Clone Wars, the best episodes are Mandalorian. Rebels, the best episodes are Mandalorian, except for that season 2 finale, because that and Darth Maul, anything Darth Maul and anything Mandalorian, those are like the best things across all the animated shows, period. But man, I don't know. They could do another Mandalorian war, and it could be live action, and it could have Sabine in it again, and it could have Ezra, and they could have the other characters from Star Wars Rebels pop up. So I don't know what they're gonna do, but I'm very excited. Like, the possibilities seem endless at this point, where it's like, it's an anthology series. Well, if it's about Mandalorians, period, it's gonna be in The Mandalorian. So everything I want is going to be in that show now, because it's not just one Mandalorian character. It's going to be like a bunch of Mandalorian characters. So that has me even more excited. And they'll be doing different stuff, because you'll have the Mandalorian War with Bo-Katan. You'll have Din Djarin doing whatever he ends up doing going forward in the series. Boba Fett now becoming like the new big gangster of Tatooine. So that's going to be a different side of it, but it's still the Boba Fett Mandalorian, and getting to see him do all his crazy stuff. So I don't know where we're headed with the Mandalorians, but it's my favorite part of Star Wars, so it's all gonna be perfection to me. But I would love to know your thoughts on this season finale, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. Of course, what did you think about Luke Skywalker? Because that's freaking insane. I'm just like, it can't be Luke Skywalker. It was Luke Skywalker. Where are we headed as well? What are your thoughts on the Book of Boba Fett thing happening and this officially becoming an anthology series for different Mandalorian stories? Just where are we headed in general? I mean, they announced like 18 trillion new Star Wars shows coming out in movies. So all your thoughts on that, please put them down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.